All right. And you can kind of sort of see what's going on. Is that right? So why did you come out today? What would you like to have answered by the end of the day that that you don't know now? What would that be? Yeah, I know. Now you get to see me. How wonderful. Huh? Protect the assets? Okay. What's next? We can do that. So long-term care? Okay. Long-term care. Don't want to avoid probate? Avoid probate, maybe, huh? That's always fun, that always gets a, let's do that. Anyone want to save taxes? Who wants to get it to the kids? Yeah, kids, yeah, get it to the kids. Okay. So let's start with a little bit of philosophy here. In my view of the world, you got rich people, and you got rich people who've got it made, okay? And they worked hard and all the rest, that's fine. But you got your Bill Gates, your Jeff Bezos, you get those folks, okay? And last summer, somebody published their tax returns, and it turns out that they're not paying any taxes. Is anybody surprised by that? Raise your hand if you're surprised. Warren Buffett, he talks about raising taxes all the time. Well, he doesn't pay any taxes, so that's easy for him to talk, right? And then you got people on the other end of the spectrum who aren't paying any taxes either, and that's because they don't have very much. Okay, so you got the people who got lots and lots, you got the people who don't have so much. Who do you think pays the taxes? Hey, there you go. I mean, kind of look at each other, right? If you're wondering who pays. Now, if you get a nursing home bill, and right now, the cost of long-term care is really going through the roof. It's very, very difficult to get anybody to work in a long-term care facility. They're having, they're paying double time, all the rest of this stuff, but still very difficult to get people there. So where the state of Michigan says it's about $10,000 a month is what the state of Michigan says to be in a long-term care facility for a month, about $10,000, $330 a day. What we're seeing is people paying $500 a day. And do you know the old Kent Community Hospital? Remember that? It's now Spectrum Fuller, right? It used to be the county hospital. Now it's a part of Spectrum. It's over $800 a day, $856 a day in their long-term care facility, not rehab. This is not the event unit. This is not rehab. This is just straight up long-term care. That is correct. A lot of people have long-term care insurance, okay, that pays $100 a day or $200 a day, which was a lot back when you took it out 20 years ago. But nowadays, when you get on Medicaid, which is how America actually pays for long-term care, the state of Michigan gets that money. That long-term care insurance is going right to the state anyway, you see. So, people with the long-term care insurance, and it's few and far between, and frankly, nowadays, it's almost impossible to get an individual policy. John Hancock has pulled out, AIG, all the insurance companies have pulled out of the individual long-term care market because they can't make any money at it. Some people still sell group policies, but that's about it these days. And sure, your Blue Cross Blue Shield does not cover the long-term care. So if you get a bill in the mail for $15,000, if you got a bill for $15,000, are you married, if I could ask? Okay. So your wife is in long-term care. I hope she's not. I hope I'm not yet, right? So you get the bill for $15,000. Think about which account you're going to take that from. Okay? Which account are you going to take it from? And then when you get the same bill next month, which account are you going to take next month's from? And the next month, and the next month, and the next month. Well, for you, if you think about, I've got $15,000. Now, it's not Disney Plus, all right? It's not $99 a month. It's $15,000 a month, and you have to pay that month after month after month. Well, how does that make you feel? Yeah. Well, there are people out there, this end of the spectrum, right? It's no big deal for them. They just give it to the person who pays the bills, and it gets taken care of somehow. Funny thing is, at the other end of the spectrum, it's the same psychological whatever, inconsequential. See, if you don't have anything, if you couldn't pay the 15,000, right? What do you do with that bill? You put it in the stack of other bills that you're not going to pay. See, so if you're at this end of the spectrum or that end, either one, it's not that big a deal. Here, because you're going to pay it anyway, you don't know where the money comes from. You didn't know if you had it or didn't have it. And down here, you couldn't pay it anyway, so it doesn't matter. It's the middle class that goes broke in long-term care. It's only the middle class that gets hit this way. See, if you take a mouse, right? A mouse, and you put cheese in front of the mouse will pull three, and remember this, 3 to get the cheese. Are you with me on this? So you put a little harness on a mouse. I wonder how hard will a mouse pull to get a piece of cheese? Scientists actually ask this question, right? So they put a spring on the mouse's tail and they put cheese in front of it, and the mouse tried to get the cheese and it would pull 3 foot-pounds or whatever to get the cheese. Are we all together on that? That making sense? Okay. So if you take away the cheese and you put a cat behind the mouse, guess what? The mouse will pull 5 to get away from the cat. Funny thing though, if you put cheese and cat together, now the mouse will pull 7. You're the mouse. You get this? Since you're 10 years old, on average, our clients are 10 years old when they started working, 10 years old. Since you're 10 years old, you've been trying to get some cheese. Maybe it was babysitting, maybe it was delivering newspaper, maybe shoveling snow. I mean, whatever, you wanted the baseball cards. I always have a hard time with girls. What did you guys want anyway? Barrettes, you know, I don't know, whatever it was you want. I know what I wanted, comic books and baseball cards, pretty easy. But you wanted something, right? And you also didn't want to be the one left out. You see, and as you've gone through life, that's why you took the overtime, right? That's why you clip coupons for the grocery store. That's why you've done all the things that you've done to get to where you are now, right? Because we're trying to hang on to a little bit of cheese and stay ahead of the cat. If you're rich, it's all cheese all the time. If you're poor, it's all cat all the time. It's only if you're middle class that you've got both things working on you. That's why the middle class works harder than anybody else, okay? And long-term care says, give us the cheese and say hello to the cat. What we're going to show you today is how to secure the cheese and kick the cat. I hope we don't have any cat lovers here. Oh, sorry. Or shoo the cat away, gently, sensibly, sensitively, okay? Now, one of the things that that Lori's going to do right now is she's going to go around before we get too much further. I'm going to start putting some stuff on the board. She's going to give you a date and a time to sit down with me or one of the other attorneys. We'd like to get this out of the way up front so that, you know, because we'll be done. Is it going to be 10:30 tonight or 10:45? What were we saying? Yeah, I don't know. Well, at the end of it, rather than go around at that point, you can just take your goodies and go. So Lori's going to do that while I get started on the basics. Okay. Here are the basics. Jack and Jill go up the hill. All right. Now, yes. Yeah, let me get rid of this. Sure. Sure, because we don't need this anymore. Okay. And we're all good on the rest of it. Is that right? Okay. And then Lori's got me over here, but I think I need to be on one. There we go. Okay. So Jack and Jill go up the hill. This is the hill. Jack and Jill, that's you and your spouse, if you got one. If you don't, this could be single people, married couple, doesn't matter. Okay. And this is life. And along the course of life, you get some stuff. This is your house. This is your car, your boat, your life savings, whatever it is you may have. If it rains outside, if we get a, what do they call it? A bomb cyclone, right? For the winter storm. If it rains, no problem, because Jill has got the umbrella and Jack's got the big stick for the coyotes. Are you with me on this? The idea here is if something happens, you can deal with it. It's your stuff. You accumulated it. You're dealing with it. What's the problem? There is no problem. You're doing fine. We all together on that? That's how life goes. Now, the problem comes when you're not around anymore. If we take you out of the picture, what happens to your stuff? Well, the answer is who knows? Now, what a lot of people will do is they'll put a little note on the bags of stuff. They'll tape a little note on there. That's your will. Your will is kind of a wish list, kind of a love note to whoever it is that finds your stuff on the hillside, saying, hey, if you find my stuff and the coyotes haven't gotten it all, and it hasn't all washed away in the rain, here's what I'd like you to do with it. Are we all together on that? That's your will, okay? The process of finding your stuff and figuring out where it goes, that's probate. And your will is just instructions to whoever finds your stuff, to the probate court. We all together on that? That makes sense? Okay, let me switch my cameras and my metaphor. Has anyone here ever been to Meyer? You ever heard of Meyer? 50 acres and all that? Okay. Now, is it Tom and Jody? Jody, have you ever said to Tom, hey, Tom, honey, Tom, man, do me a favor, huh? Just drop me off right here. I'm going to run in for a jug of milk. Okay, I'm going to run in Myers for a jug of milk. Just wait right here. Keep the car running because I'm just getting a jug of milk. Have you ever tried that? Okay. So this is you, right? This is when your hair was red. A little bit different back in the day. And you said, hey, Tom, let's keep the car running. I'm going in for a jug of milk. And of course, before you find the jug of milk, what do you find? Pile of other stuff you cannot live without. This is how most people go through life. Like Jody going into the Meijer for a loaf of bread or a jug of milk, all right? Before you know it, she finds lots of other stuff. And of course, Meijer is very good at figuring out how to make you pick up a lot of stuff. We have a client actually who does those end caps. You would not believe the psychology that goes into what they put on the end cap it's a PhD type level. Anyway, this is you going through life with all your stuff, which is fine until what? Until you slip and fall. Whoops. When you slip and fall, you go from having complete control over your stuff to no control at all. Are you with me on that? See, before, whose stuff is it? It's your stuff. Who's dealing with it? You are. What's the problem? No problem. But when you slip and fall, all of a sudden, nobody has control over your stuff. Now, at Meijer, clean up on aisle 3, this is Justin Bieber. Justin is the probate court. It is the job of the probate court to clean up your mess, not to clean up you, somebody else takes care of that, but it's the job of the probate court to come in and clean up your mess. Are we all together on that? People say, oh, what's probate? Probate is cleaning up the mess. Very simple. Somebody had control over that stuff. Now nobody does. It's all over the place. What are we going to do with it? Somebody's got to clean up the mess. The will does not avoid probate. Everyone's like, oh, I have a will. I don't have to worry about probate. Excuse me. The will is the note that you're asking Justin to find in the mess. It's your shopping list, maybe. I don't know. It's just a note that says, hey, if I slip and fall, here's where I want my stuff to go. Are you with me on this? And Justin doesn't read so good. All right? It's a problem. But along with Justin, but Justin's not alone. He's got friends. Along with Justin is his good friend, Hourly Bill. Anybody know why we call this one Hourly Bill? Pay by the hour, sure. And Hourly Bill has 2 heads. One is the attorney head, which gets about 80% of the money. And the other one is government fees, expenses, taxes, that kind of thing. Most of what people call probate costs are attorney fees. Raise your hand if that shocks and surprises you. Nobody shocked and surprised that attorneys get 80% of probate? Oh, come on. Yeah, well, okay, maybe it's 85%. Anyway, if probate shows up, if Justin shows up, Hourly Bill is not far behind. In Michigan, we are so lucky. We have Red Gretsch. Red Gretsch also shows up. Red Gretsch is what we call estate recovery. In most states, and almost all states, we're surrounded by states that when you apply for Medicaid, which is how we pay for long-term care. Well, let me ask you this. Raise your hand if you can pay $15,000 a month for the next 3 years, no problem. All right, so you don't have to worry about Red Gretsch or any of this. You can go home early. Okay. But if that is a concern for you, all right, and the federal government says on average, if you're 65, on average, you will need skilled nursing services. And that's all kinds of services, not just nursing home, assisted living, at-home care. On average, 3 years. 20% of folks will need it for 5 years or more. Right now, it's about $15,000 a month. I think we're paying about $20,000 a month. My dad, he's 96. He's now bedridden. He's still sharp, but between the kids being there 24/7 and the help that we're bringing in, it gets expensive. Okay. Now he's not going to last 3 more years, but if we had to pay for the services that the family had provided, it'd be quite a bit more than that. That's why I say 3 years, $15,000 a month, thereabouts. It's at longtermcare.gov if you want to check out the website. Anyway, in Michigan, they wait until your stuff goes through probate before they come after the leftovers. In most other states, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Wisconsin, Minnesota, right? They come after your stuff immediately. When you apply for Medicaid, they put a lien on your house. They put a lien on whatever else your spouse has. They do that immediately. Michigan doesn't do that. That's why we say Red Gretsch lives in probate. Here's a question for you. Do you think they make more money or less when they wait for you to go through probate? Less. Do you think the government wants more money or less? Do you think it's going to be forever before Michigan figures this one out and starts putting liens on people's houses? Yeah, that's what everybody says. Oh, the house is protected. The house is, and here's the problem with that very common thing that everybody says. It's the state of Michigan, so provided your house is worth less than around $700,000. If it's worth more than 700, it's not protected, but even from the state. But if it's less than 700, the state of Michigan is not going to come after your house. But what happens almost routine, in fact, we were just talking about this again today in the team meeting. The people submit a Medicaid application after they run out of money. People have the spend down. You've heard of spend down? Have you heard of that? It's where you spend all your money and then you think you qualify for Medicaid and then you don't qualify. There's many, many ways not to qualify, and it's almost routine. It's not everybody, but it's very, very common. So most nursing homes, they're running 300,000 to 500,000 per facility accounts receivable, which is really bad debt because they'll never collect it, right? It's the nursing home that sues you. Do you see? If you don't qualify for the Medicaid and you don't pay the nursing home, it's not the state of Michigan. It's the nursing home that does it. And if your stuff goes through probate, then they're coming after it then. Do you see? So a lot of people will avoid probate to avoid Red Gretsch, which makes sense, right? But my question, and Michigan is one of 7 states now. There's only 7 of us that do it this way. Everyone else puts the lien on up front. Why do you think they put the lien on up front? More money. Are you with me on that? So the house is protected in the sense that Michigan will let you keep it up to right around 700. It's not quite 700,000, but it's close. Right up to about 7. Who said that Medicaid's for poor people? Medicaid's for poor people. Am I right? Poor people who have $700,000 homes. What? How much is your car worth? How much can your car be worth and qualify for Medicaid? So you got a $700,000 house. What are you going to park in your $700,000 house? How about a $200,000 Ferrari? No problem. Would you rather have a cigarette boat? Well, you can't have the Ferrari, but you can have a motorized vehicle. How about a jet plane? Who wants a jet plane? So poor people with $700,000 houses and jet planes will qualify for Medicaid. I thought this was about poor people. What? I'm just saying. That's the way it works. Okay? So are we all set now? This is how probate works. You make a mess, somebody's got to clean it up, and he brings his friends to the party. Now, how do we avoid probate? Well, let's go back to see Jack and Jill. Here's how we avoid probate. The first thing that we do, that people do, is they create what I call the pantry. The pantry is the revocable living trust. If you know somebody says, oh, I have a trust. Guaranteed this is what they've got. Unless they're our clients, that's what they've got. A revocable living trust. And the whole point of the pantry is avoid probate, save taxes, get it to the kids. This is why people do it. Okay, it's totally mistaken, totally short-sighted. It's almost a scam, as I'll describe to you. Okay, but what happens, or when does it happen that you avoid probate, save taxes, get it to the kids? What do you have to be to do those three things? Anybody? Dead. Thank you. You have to be dead. Raise your hand if you're dead. Anybody here dead? Right. See, the problem is not that you're going to die. The problem is not that you're dead. We'll figure out what to do with your body. We'll figure out what to do with your stuff. We've been doing that for, I don't know, 5 or 10 years anyway, right? Since people have had stuff. So kind of a long time. So we'll figure that one out. The problem is, what if you live? See, you've earned and you've saved, and now you've got what you call life savings, and you've built up some stuff, right? Maybe we should worry about your quality of life before you die. Anybody interested in that? Show of hands. No, we're not interested in that. Is anybody opposed to having a good quality of life? Anybody opposed to spending their own money? Okay. That's what this is all about. And that's why the pantry, which everybody does to avoid probate, save taxes, get it sounds pretty good, right? That's what everybody does. These fail. These almost all fail. 96% of these fail. And the way they fail, the reason, oh, I'm supposed to be switching this around and I didn't. Sorry for you people at home. See, I got to do everything myself. Anyway, why does the pantry fail? The pantry fails because you built the pantry, but you left your stuff out on the driveway. Are you with me on this? This is what we call funding the trust. Has anybody ever heard of that? Funding the trust. Funding the trust means moving your crap off the driveway and putting it in the pantry. And you're not going to do it. You're not going to do it 96% of the time. Do I have any engineers in here? Engineers are the one exception. Not surgeons. Surgeons don't do it. Accountants don't do it. Lawyers don't do it. Mechanics don't do it. Nurses don't do it. Executive secretaries, they tend to. But it's mostly engineers who will actually read the instructions, follow through, and do it. Nobody else, which is why 96% of the time, these things fail. And they fail. Why? Because you didn't put the stuff in the pantry. We all together on that? Otherwise, it works great. Now, if you build yourself the Taj Mahal of pantries, oh my goodness, what a wonderful pantry. And your stuff is 3 feet outside the door, what good does it do you? Is that valuable? Is that worth having? I don't think so either. Now, let's go back to Myers and see how it works over there. Because Jody says, you know, if I slip and fall, my stuff goes all over the place. That's terrible. I don't want that. I'm going to get me a what do you call? A trust. Yeah, I'm going to get me a trust. And here's how the trust is supposed to work. Jody says, you know, I know if I slip and fall, I'm going to slip and fall there, and that'll be bad. I don't want that to happen. So I'm going to get me a trust, and I'm going to put my stuff into the trust. Hurrah. And now it's still my stuff. Are you with me on this? Still my stuff. Take it in, take it out, mess around with it, do whatever you want. The difference comes when you slip and fall, right? Because now when you slip and fall, what happens to the stuff? Nothing, right? It's in the trust. And the trust says who gets to steer the trust next, who your successor is going to be. Your favorite kid, maybe your least favorite kid, because being a trustee is no walk on the beach, okay? You get to decide. That's how it's supposed to work. How does it actually work? 96% of the time. 96% of the time, the attorney gives you the trust and you say, wow, thank you. That's great. I got a trust now. And the attorney says, yeah, that's wonderful. See you in 20 years. Okay. And you've got an empty trust and you've got all your stuff in your name. All of it. Well, maybe not all of it. Most attorneys, most law firms will put your house into the trust. They will go ahead and deed that into the trust. Most of them, not all of them, but most will put your house in the trust. Unfortunately, most will also use the ladybird deed, which is a huge mistake, but they'll do that. There will be a deed putting your house in the trust. Are you all together on that? But you know what happens? You refinance the house, or you get a home equity line of credit, a HELOC, or what? Or you move. Did you know that people move? Some people actually downsize. I've heard about that, right? And now you've got nothing in your trust. Most of the trusts we see, and we see everybody's, most of the trusts that we see have nothing in them at all. About 50%, about half, 51%. I'd say most. The rest might have the house in there, might have a checking account. But by and large, most of what you have is still in your name. So that when you go to slip and fall, out comes Justin, out comes hourly bill, and Red Gretch, of course, is right behind. Are you with me on this? This is what really happens. Now you say, wait a second. 96% of the time, what do you do for a living, if I could ask? Okay, so if 96% of your buyers sued the sellers because they got ripped off, or 96% of the sellers didn't get their money, how long would you be in business? Not very long. So how do attorneys get away with this piracy? How do they get away with this? Selling people trust. The trust don't work all the time. Oh, and by the way, who do you think gets the probate? When your kids go to the lawyer and they say to the lawyer, hey, we're going to do mom's trust now. And the lawyer says, oh, I'm sorry, we have to go through probate. And your kids say, what? Hey, mom paid all that money, so we didn't have to go through probate. What does the attorney do then? What the attorney does then is he says, well, give me that binder. You got a nice binder? Who's got the nice binder? Leather, super binder, right? You open up the binder, right? And the lawyer says, hey, look at this thing here. It says funding memo, or it says important stuff to know, or it says read this first, or it says, dear Mr. and Mrs. Jones, okay? There's a piece of paper in there that says, dear client, don't forget to put your stuff in the trust. Here's how you do it. And the instructions are so bad, you can't follow them anyway. But it says that. And by the way, come and see us if you can't figure it out. $4.50 an hour. Okay? Guess what? You didn't read that memo. Nobody reads the memo except the engineers, right? You didn't read the memo. You didn't put the stuff in the trust. And what does the lawyer say to your kids? Not my fault. I told them, look at this wonderful memo. It says right here, your trust ain't going to work. Usually there's a lot more legalese around it, but that's the effect of what it says, right? Your trust ain't going to work because you didn't put anything in the trust. And you got to put the stuff in the trust. And we're here to help. Okay? But you haven't seen that. Your parents haven't seen the lawyer in the last 20 years, not since they signed the documents. So there's no follow through. So nothing is in the trust. So now they're going through probate, and 80% of that goes to hourly bill. And guess what? I had two attorneys went through. All my stories are true stories. So I just feel the need to repeat that this is a true story. I mean, this actually happened. I sent two attorneys through the Institute for Continuing Legal Education, has a certification process. So you can be a certified estate planning attorney in Michigan. Certified. No kidding, right? You know what they're training them to do? Training them is to not put the stuff in the trust. Oh, that's what the will is for. Are you with me on this? Because my guys, I got 10 people down at the next building. Some of you may have gotten lost on the way here. That's why I was late, incidentally. I got lost no, that's not why. Anyway, you see the trust funding center down there? We got a bunch of people down there. All they do all day is put stuff in the trust. Because we know that if we don't do it, it isn't going to happen. All right? It's just not going to happen. And then the trust fails, and then we're one of the 96%, and who wants to be there? Okay? Right? But so my guys are going through the course. I say guys, man and a woman, one of each, right? Where there's 8 attorneys here. And they're going through, and they're asking the question, well, how do you make sure the stuff is actually in the trust? Deer in the headlights, deer in the headlights, deer in the headlights. And it's a Zoom meeting, of course. This was last year. And the guy on the stage, the guy who's running the show, partner at a big name law firm, says, well, that's what the will is for. What does that mean? That's what the will is for. What it means is they're training these people not to fund the trust, but to go through probate. And why does anybody do a trust? What's the number one reason? Avoid probate. Oh, you can't do that. Oh, it's too much work. Oh, it's a lot of work. Don't get me wrong. It is a lot of work. 2 to 4 months after you sign your documents. You're not done with us yet, right? It's a 2 to 4 month process to make sure everything is actually funded into the trust. Bank accounts, checking accounts, IRA, 401k, and we don't actually put those in the account. There's something else we do with those that I'll tell you about. Are we all together on that? All together? So that's why most trusts fail. That's why most estate planning, I say it's a scam, because they know that they're telling you you're going to avoid probate. And in fact, it's not their fault. Why is it not their fault? Because they gave you the memo they know you're not going to read. How's that for a good deal? Makes you wish you go into law school, doesn't it? Okay. So how do we fix this? Well, number one, of course, we make sure that everything is actually in the trust. And once we make sure that everything is in the trust, life is one sweet song. I throw a key under the mat for your favorite kid, right? Everything's in the trust. Now, when you die, it's not out in the open, no coyotes, no nothing. I guess you can all go home a little bit early today, huh? Not so fast. Because you built the pantry in Tornado Alley. Whoopsies. Tornado Alley. And there's 2 twisters out there in Tornado Alley. And the first twister is the lawsuit twister. What if you get sued? What if you get sued? Well, come on. That's ridiculous even to think about it. Because in America today, everybody gets along. You've probably noticed this, right? As you're walking down the street, you know, it's kind of, you ever see Charlie in the Chocolate Factory and Willy Wonka in the Chocolate Factory? You know how, you know, everything's so delicious and everything's wonderful and everybody loves each other. Have you noticed that? You know, it's kind of sad. There's people been put out of business because everybody getting along. Like Jerry Springer. You ever hear of this guy, Jerry Springer? Yeah. They can't find anyone to fight anymore. He's out of business. Poor guy. And Judge Judy. Oh, man. For years, she had a good thing going. She would bring people. Have you ever heard of Judge Judy? It's a show, right? And they would bring people on. They'd fight with each other and argue and stuff like that. But everybody gets along these days. There's nothing for Judge Judy to do. They tried dancing with Judy. That didn't work. So poor Judge Judy. So don't worry about lawsuits because those never happen. The other thing that never happens is long-term care, right? That's the other twister out there, long-term care. Good news is everybody lives to their expiration date, like on a carton of milk, right? And then clear the shelves. That's how it works, isn't it? There's no more dementia. There's no more Lewy body dementia, Alzheimer's. That's all. It's all a thing of the past. We all together on that? Right? You just live and then you're healthy, Jack LaLanne, and then next minute, see you later. Okay? But it is Friday. Today's Friday, isn't it Friday? It's Friday. Friday afternoon even. Later than you might think. Certainly later than I thought. Anyway, it is a little bit later. And can we get crazy? Do you mind if we get crazy on Friday afternoon? Does anybody? Nobody has a problem with that? Okay. Let's imagine, I know it's even crazy to think about it, but let's imagine that one of these twisters actually showed up. Crazy to think about it, I know. But what if it did? What if one of these twisters shows up? Does it really matter whether your stuff is in the pantry or out on the driveway? Does it matter? No. Kiss it goodbye. This is why we do a second trust. We actually do not one trust, we do 2 of them. And the second one is what we call the root cellar trust. The root cellar trust, or the protection trust, is how we protect your stuff from lawsuits and long-term care. It's a second trust. You can call it a Medicaid divestment trust if you want. You can call it a asset protection trust if you want. You can call it a peanut butter jelly sandwich if you want. You can call it all kinds of things, right? But the idea is that this is where your house goes. This is where your cottage goes. This is where money goes. Insurance policies go in the root cellar trust. Now, a lot of people have these things called IRAs. Have you ever heard of these? IRAs, also 401k, 403b, 457, SEPs, blah, 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 railroad retirement, thrift savings plan if you're in a federal employee. All those tax advantage trusts, also known as retirement plan assets, all of those, I'm going to call them IRAs for simplicity. IRAs, those do not go in trust yet. Those do not go in trust yet. Because as soon as I put them in a trust, unless you've died, no, I got to pay the tax. Who wants to do that? Raise your hand if you want to pay more tax right away. No. Who wants to do that? Okay. So if I put these in trust while you're alive, bang, I'm going to have to pay the income tax, ordinary income tax all at once. Does anybody want to do that? Raise your hand if you want to do that. Me neither. Okay. So the IRAs are a little bit different. Okay. A little bit different. But we're putting the other assets in the root cellar trust to protect them from lawsuits and long-term care. Now, I say that there are 3 elephants in the room. Oh, you can tell this one's an elephant, right? I say that there are 3 elephants in the room. The first elephant is what I call no poverty. Nobody talks about this. Everybody assumes you're going to be happy, healthy, everything's going to go fine, and then expiration date, see you later. It doesn't work like that. Most middle-class people go broke in long-term care. It's 3 years, it's $15,000 a month. That's my mental math. I think it's actually longer than that for an awful lot of people, and it costs more than that for a lot of people. Some people it costs less, that's for sure, right? But for most people, unless you've got $500,000 that you just can't wait to spend on the nursing home, you're going to go broke. That's what we've got to address first. No nursing home poverty. That's job 1. Nobody else talks about it. I'm talking about it. Okay. How do we avoid nursing home poverty? We get you qualified for Medicaid. Medicaid. Ooh, what a terrible word. Okay. And this is my second elephant, which is what I call no charity. I'm not looking for a handout here. Okay. All I want to do is qualify for the program that I've been paying for the last, how long have you worked? 40 years, for the last 40 years. 30 years, really? You don't look 30 years to me. Oh, okay, fine. So you've been working since you were born, I got it, okay. So anyway, point is, throughout your lifetime, you've been working and saving and all the rest, you've been paying in, and there have been people taking out. Now, do you know any realtors who sell 1 house a year? You don't even know why they're keeping the desk going? Not in your agency? Oh, okay. Well, you've heard of them. You've heard of them, right? Well, it's somebody else. What do you do for a living, if I could ask? No, well, yeah, you. Okay. So are there guys in the shop who you don't know why they're still working in the shop other than they must have videotape on the owner? You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. I mean, it's like, well, who's he related to? Right? Does everyone here have had a job getting paid for money, right? Pay money for working, right? Yeah. Is anyone mystified by what I'm talking about? That there are people out there who you don't know why they're still working, right? Why are they still drawing a paycheck? How do they have the guts to cash the paycheck, doing the job the way they do the job? Does anybody not know what I'm talking about? You got it, yeah. Right. But not here, right? No, because we crack the whip around here, right? You know what I'm talking about. Well, those people who had the same chances you did, who had the same opportunities you did, right? The ones who are always pissing and moaning about how, oh, more month than money. You ever hear that? Right? The people go to the payday lender or people like that, right? Same opportunities you did. They need long-term care. Guess what? It's free. Come on down. All right? You chump. You didn't go to the casino. You went to church. Whoops. Should have gone to the casino. This is actually a case. I've got a woman painted her house, and donated money to the church. And because she painted her house and donated money to the church, Department of Health and Human Services says no Medicaid for you for 3 months because you gave too much to the church and you painted your house. How do you like them petunias? All right? If she had spent the money at the casino, no problem. Makes you feel like an idiot, doesn't it? Why did I save this money if all I'm going to do, and then I get the same thing everybody else gets because now I'm on Medicaid, right? This is what I'm talking about. That guy, that's the deal I want. I paid in, I saved, I worked, I did all the good things. I didn't just show up here last week and cross the border or whenever, right? And get everything for free. I've been paying in for 30, 40 years, however long. Why is it so bad? What makes it so awful that I don't have to go broke? Why? What? And I want the nursing home to get paid. See, job 1 is you don't go broke. Job 2 is caregivers get paid. All right? It's just that you already paid for them. Medicare is an insurance program. You pay your premiums, $144 every Social Security check. You're paying for that insurance, and that's what it is, insurance. I say that Medicaid is insurance also. It's not structured that way, but it is insurance that you've been paying for with your tax dollars every paycheck you ever got. Before you got it, they got it. And some of that money went to Medicaid. All I'm saying is, give me that guy's deal. The guy who didn't work, the guy who didn't save, the guy who didn't do all the things I did. I just want the same deal. I don't want a special deal. Just give me that one. Because here's the thing. Your name, ma'am? Barb. You've been in a nursing home, Barb, now for a month. Are you with me on that? A nursing home for a month. How many showers have you had? For a month. At least once a week. Thank you. Ooh. Okay, how many sponge baths? All right, once a week. Well, yeah, whether you need it or not, right? You get a shower. Okay. And let's see, whose clothes are you wearing? The answer is you don't know. Because after a month, they stopped looking at the labels a long time ago. All right. We got clients that move out of the nursing home. They got half a closet full of clothes that don't fit, somebody else's name in them. There's two problems with that. Number one, half of the closet is full of somebody else's clothes. That's a problem, right? The second problem, those clothes belong to somebody who don't have their clothes. Of course, you don't have your clothes either, so I guess it's fair, right? Maybe instead of having the communal wash, blood, mucus, and vomit, just saying, right? Maybe you'd like to send your out to wash. That's going to cost money. Getting a certified nursing assistant to show up every single day in the morning or evening, whenever it was you like to take a shower, right? That's going to cost money too. Did I mention that your roommate is a big fan of Tiny Tim? Who here remembers Tiny Tim? Miss Vicky, right? 3 o'clock in the morning, tiptoe through the tulips, right? Maybe you'd like your own room with a view of the bird bath. That's going to cost money too. But you got no money. You know why? Because the state of Michigan lets you have $2,000 and $60 a month, which is not enough to do your hair, ladies. Some of us don't have to worry about that. Right? But you want to go to get a nursing home perm, you can't afford it. What if you could afford it? Right? What if the nursing home got paid and Medicaid is cost plus? Medicaid is whatever it costs plus margin. Nursing home is doing fine with every Medicaid client. It's a 3-year trailing average of expenses plus margin. That's what the Medicaid reimbursement rate is. Don't cry for the nursing home because somebody's on Medicaid, because you, the insurance that you're paying for, the long-term care insurance called Medicaid that you're paying for, is paying for cost plus. So don't worry about it. They're getting paid. Right? But why not pay them some more? Because there might be things that you would like a shower, like your own clothing, like a little peace and quiet, perhaps. Are you with me on this? That's what this planning is all about. Okay, this is not about where your stuff goes when you're dead. Yeah, we do that, and I'll get to it. That's the third elephant, incidentally. We'll get there. But the most important thing is, how do I hang on to your stuff for you so that you get what you have earned? Remember that commercial they had? Remember that one? We make money the old-fashioned way. We earn it. Well, you earned it. Well, I don't know. Who here found the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow? Any leprechauns? Who here had rich parents who died and left them on Easy Street? Yeah? Kind of sweat your brow, take the overtime, forego the vacation. You know, I already knew that because that's the only people who show up at these workshops. Just saying. Haven't seen Bill Gates yet. Waiting on it. Maybe, who knows? Maybe he'll show up one of these days. But are you with me on this? So by putting assets in the root cell, now people say, well, how does that work? Oh, one other thing about Medicaid. What you have to put up with Medicaid, right? What you have to put up with is lousy nursing homes, rotten service, terrible quality of care. Are you with me on that? Because Medicaid is only the nastiest nursing homes out there. What? Barb, what are you saying? It's not true. She was in a really nice one. What one was she in? Oh, well, there you go. Yeah. Well, St. Anne's is a little bit of an outlier. Okay. Actually, every nursing home takes Medicaid, 100%. You know, and but there's only a few Medicaid beds though, right? And the bed bugs in the Medicaid beds, isn't that true? When they find bed bugs in a nursing home, that becomes a Medicaid bed. That's what I heard. Is that right? 80% of the folks in nursing home, skilled nursing facility, are on Medicaid. And again, St. Anne's is an outlier. It's around 50%, 55%, because Sister Gabriella would have it no other way. Yeah, she's a sweetheart. Well, she's dedicated, that's for sure. Focused. But most places around 80%. Some places it's less, 70%. Some places more. Samaritas now, 90%. Okay. But when we're talking about long-term care facilities, you're talking about all of the skilled nursing facilities. 50, 60% of assisted livings take Medicaid. There was just another merger, and it was one of the facilities, one of the organizations that takes Medicaid, gobbling up a facility that did not. So it's spreading because it's a reliable source of funds for a long-term care facility, whether it's skilled nursing or assisted living. And the at-home care program, I absolutely love the PACE program, which is an at-home care, program. Okay. And guess what? If you're working at a nursing home, think about this. You're working at a nursing. Does anyone work at a nursing home? Anybody? Or worked at a nursing home? Oh, okay. Well, you know what I'm talking about, right? So if you come in for an 8-hour shift, what's the chance you're going to be a 12-hour shift? 12-hour shift, 16-hour shift. Well, PACE, which is the care program at home, it's 5 days a week, 5 weekdays, and you're out of there by 5:30. Now, if you have a choice to go to a long-term care facility around the clock, 12 to 16-hour shifts, or you can be sure that your weekends are your own and you're out of there by 5:30 because everyone's gone back to their own home, which one are you going to go for? You know, when people have a choice, which way do you think they go? Right now, how long have you been out, if I could ask? Oh, okay. So, and it was happening then, and do you still have people in the industry? Yeah, okay. So check me if I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm exaggerating. But it's musical chairs in administration and staffing now at the long-term care facility. For 50 cents, an orderly will go from one to the other. And because of the bad debt, right? Because they are not qualifying people for Medicaid in a timely way, and then there's no money to collect it. This is why they're running 500,000, accounts receivable. I mean, imagine you're running a business, even a fairly good-sized business like a long-term care facility. You got $500,000 of uncollected money that you'll never collect. You'd like to give them a raise, but someone else is going to hire them away for 25 cents an hour or more. It's a tough job trying to administer a long-term care facility. And the administrators themselves, you make a relationship over here, and next thing you know, they're over there. Because that's going on also. There's a lot of churn in this, okay? So it's not like, oh, everybody knows what's going on. It's a difficult thing, right? What if we made sure they got paid? What if you were paying extra for the extras? What if your life savings were intact so you could vote with your feet if that's what you wanted to do? Are you with me on this? That's what this is all about, the first two elephants. Now, how does it work? Here's how it works. Medicaid says, did we switch me? Thank you. Medicaid says that if you give money away, if today, so this is a timeline, 0 to 60. 0 to 60. Today is 0. 60 is 5 years from today. 61 is 5 years plus a month. We all together on this? Timeline, 0 to 60. If today, you give $1,000 to one of your kids, just say, here you go, honey, $1,000. If you apply for Medicaid, in the next 60 months, you submit the application. In the next 60 months, you have to tell Medicaid, Department of Health and Human Services, hey, guess what, fellas? By the way, I gave away $1,000. We all together on that? You got to tell them. And they will penalize you for that. They won't pay for you. The more you give away, the longer they don't pay. We all together on that? Does that make sense? All right. Funny thing though, if you wait until month 61 to submit the application, now they don't care. We all together on that? You gave the money away, you waited for 61 months to submit your application. Now they don't care that you gave away the $1,000 5 years and a month ago. And they don't care if it was 1,000, they don't care if it was 10,000, 100,000, a million. They don't care. Too far in the rearview mirror, can't see it. Doesn't matter if it was a chameleon or King Kong, Godzilla, it's too far in the path. I can't see it. Doesn't matter how much it is. We all together on that? Now, why don't, I want to have some good reasons for this now. Does anyone have children? Who has children? Anybody? Got kids? Okay, so you're going to love my strategy. Give all your stuff to your kids starting tonight. Who's in favor of that strategy? Oh, you know your kids. And you don't like that idea. Give it all to your kids. 5 years later, you can pick your nursing home. You don't like that idea? Huh. Well, what else could we do? Just as a sideline, there are actually attorneys doing that. That is actually happening. There are people who are advising clients to give their stuff to their kids, and they're doing it. Doesn't that kind of blow your mind? It's like, who would do that? But it actually happens. So we don't do that. Don't worry. All right. What is our alternative? Well, what if there was something? What if there was a structure, a root cellar, a trust, let's say, okay? And let's say that when you put assets into that trust, there was no new tax ID number and there were no new tax returns because that trust was set up with you in control, so much control that the IRS says you didn't do anything for tax purposes. As far as the IRS is concerned, you didn't change anything. And so no new tax return, no new tax ID number, no new tax rates, everything's exactly the same. And if you want to use the money, go ahead. You want to buy a new house, go ahead. You want to sell your old house, house comes out, money goes in, money goes out, condo comes in. No problem. What if you didn't give up any control over the money? What if you didn't give up any tax advantages about the money? What if you didn't give up anything over the money? But the trust was set up in such a way that it triggered the 60-month period. Would you rather give it to your kids or do that? Well, maybe, huh? See? That's what the root cellar trust does. It triggers the 60-month look back. Are you with me on this? They call it look back. I call it look forward because it's where I'm standing right now, moving forward 60 months. 5 years from now, this money doesn't count. Now, it counts for me because I'm still driving the car. I'm still living in the house. I'm still investing the money. I can take the income if I want. I can spend the money on whatever I want to spend it on. That's no problem. I can give it to my kids if I choose to. Right away, or wait 5 years, or whatever it is you want. It's your money. If I put money in the trust, who owns the money? You do. People say what? What are you guys? People say the trust. Do you have money? Show me. No, I mean, where's your money? What do you mean in the bank? I thought you said you had money. You don't have any money. The bank has money. In the as it should be, right? See, saying I don't own money, the trust owns money, is like saying I don't have any money, the bank has the money. Yeah, kinda, but you own the money through the trust. When you have money in a checking account, it's your money through the bank. Does that make sense? Okay, don't give up on this idea that it's your money. I keep hearing that. Oh, I don't own anything, it's all in the trust. What does that mean? I don't have anything, it's in my pants pocket. That means my pants own the money. What? How does that make any sense? All right, so it's not helpful to think, oh, I don't own it. No, you do own it. You definitely own it. It's your money, do what you want with it, no problem. But because of the way it's set up, when you need long-term care, the long-term care gets paid for. Because why? Because I qualify for Medicaid, I qualify for the long-term care. The nursing home gets paid. And you haven't gone broke because I want to pay for certified nursing assistant. Hey, look in the root cellar, look at all that money. I want to pay for my own room, root cellar. I want to send my laundry out, root cellar. There's a long-term care facility every third Thursday. It's Tex-Mex night. Now they're out of business, but this is an old story. It's also a true story, but it's an old one. It doesn't happen anymore. But it did for a while. And every third Thursday, Tex-Mex night. Are you with me on this? Tex-Mex night, national nursing home chain. So how many 87-year-old people in West Michigan do you think like Tex-Mex? Any guesses? The point of this planning is that when Tex-Mex night rolls around, you're sending Uber over to Russ's for the pot roast. In a nutshell, that's what's going on here. Any questions? Okay, let's talk about IRAs, because IRAs are different. IRAs are strange and wonderful. When you apply for Medicaid, you cannot have more than $2,000 in your name. You cannot have more than $2,000 in your name. Did I mention that you can't have more than $2,000 in your name? I think I did. How are you going to qualify for Medicaid with your IRA, with your 401k? The answer is we're going to move it over to your spouse if you're married. If you're not married, I got to cash the thing in, I can save half of it. If you are married, right, I can go to court and I can move the IRA over to the spouse. I have to get a court order to do it. Blah, de, blah. It's a mess, but it's doable. We've done it dozens of times. Okay. So that's IRAs. That's for you guys, because I can't put it in the trust and save it that way. I've got other ways. I'm just going to say other, because otherwise we would be here till midnight explaining how this one works. Our record on this is 2.6 million. We had $2.6 million in IRA money, moved it from one spouse to the other, protected the whole thing. The application was over 1,300 pages long. And guess what? The approval came back in less than 30 days. You think anybody read that? I don't think they even looked at it. I think there's, okay. That's what I think happened. But how did we get there? We followed the rules. Remember, this is all about full disclosure. We don't do anything that we don't disclose. We tell them everything. When we do a Medicaid application, we do quite a few, a couple thousand so far, 2,500. Whenever we do a Medicaid application, we give them copies of things they're not even entitled to. Why? Because I'd rather them have the information and see that I complied exactly with what the rules say, right? I'm not looking to pull a fast one here. I'm not looking to hide assets. I tell them everything, exactly what we did, exactly how we did it. And that's why we have a 99.5% success rate on the first go round. And the other 0.5% that we don't get approval immediately, we appeal and we get approval on appeal. Last year, we didn't have any appeals that went to court. And last year, the Department of Health and Human Services, unprecedented, won every single case where there was an attorney involved. So far this year, they've lost one case, and we have 2 more that we think we're going to win. But last year we didn't have any. So am I bragging on myself? Is that arrogant? Yeah, we're really good. Should I just said that instead of giving you the example? Say, yeah, we're really good. Well, the thing is, when you are as meticulous, why do you think it takes 2 to 4 months to fund a trust? Think it takes 2 to 4 months because we, slapdash it and that'll be good enough? No, we don't even turn you loose, right? Until we have written documentation that every single asset, and we have it in our file, which we scan in, which has been very beneficial in a number of cases when people went to get benefits and they had lost the paperwork and this or that. The fact that we had it was what turned the tide. But we don't turn you loose until we've got written documentation that everything's in the trust. And so that 10 years from now, remember, it's 5 years, right? 5 years, I got to get at least. Well, you're not going to go in on the crack of 5 years, right? Oh, hey, it's 161, time for the nursing home. No, I mean, 5 years later, 10 years later, you go in, I can go all the way back to the start and prove evidence in court, kind of prove what happened. See? So the fact that you've moved several times, you lost your storage unit, your kids didn't take care of this stuff, they made a bonfire out of it, God knows what, irrelevant, because we've got all that information here. Are you with me on this? So not only do we do it correctly, we're a resource for you going forward, if that makes sense. All right. So this is how we protect it for the two of you. We switch it from one to the other. Now, the IRA, when it comes to your kids, when it goes to your kids, Barb, how many kids you got? Okay. So you've both died, and now the IRA, 401k, whatever it is going to the kids. We all together on this? And what does everybody tell you? What does everybody tell you when it comes to IRAs? Put your spouse on there first, and then? You're not supposed to answer. That's cheating. Let somebody else have a turn. The kids, of course. Yeah. Oh, I don't ask hard questions. They're all easy questions. Yeah, the kids. First the spouse, then the kids. That's what everybody tells you. It is the worst possible thing you can possibly do. Okay? It's mean. It's cruel. It's evil. It's terrible, awful, horrible to make your kids beneficiary in the IRA. I feel like Rodney Dangerfield, when he says, well, so-and-so was like this. And then he waits, and then somebody always says, well, how much was she, or whatever. And nobody's doing it. So why is it so cruel, right? Doesn't everybody want to know? How cruel is it? Well, here's how cruel it is. The inherited IRA that you leave to your two kids, right, is the goose that lays the golden egg. Because that goose will lay 10 eggs. For the next 10 years after you die, it'll pump out another required minimum distribution to your kids. Okay? But here's the danger. Now, your kids would never get divorced or go bankrupt or co-sign for your grandkids' student loans. They would never open a sports bar in March of 2020. They would never get into a car accident. They would never be, they would never have any judgment against them for any reason whatsoever. Are we all together on that? So we're talking about your neighbor's kids. This would never happen to your kids. This would happen to neighbor's kids, right? Because those things might happen to them. They never happen to you. And now the IRA is at risk. See, you guys can get sued all day long for your IRA, your 401k, your 403b, thrift savings plan, et cetera. Your retirement plan assets are protected by federal law. No one can take them away from you. We all together on that, except for divorce, right? We're all good to go on that, okay? But Supreme Court about 9 years ago now said, and they ruled 9-0, so this was, everybody agreed on this, when it goes to the kids, it's not an IRA anymore. There's no protection when the money goes to your kids. We all together on that? No protection. What does that mean? What it means is that daughter-in-law you never liked, right? That son-in-law you thought was Dudley Do-Right and he turned out to be Snidely Whiplash. Remember that guy, right? There's a divorce and now that person can seize the IRA from your kid because it's just another checking account. Or the car accident or the bankruptcy. It was a bankruptcy that was in front of the Supreme Court, right? This guy goes bankrupt. Uncle leaves him a bunch of money, or aunt, I forget which, leaves him a bunch of money in an IRA, right? The bankruptcy court seizes the money and pays off his creditors. Yay, I got a bunch of money. Oh, I don't got any money. What's the rest of the story? Yay, I got a bunch of IRA money. Ooh, I lost the IRA money. And now, got to pay income tax on the money. Yay, 200,000. Oh, nothing. Whoops, tax bill for 80,000. 40% tax rate. More than 50% if you're in New York or California. Are you with me on this? And it's the only way you can actually leave your kid in debt. Are you with me on this? You can die owing money to everybody. Kids don't inherit that, okay? The only way you can leave your kid in debt is by leaving them an IRA. Now, the kid's got to participate. They have to have had a bad marriage or student loan debt or something like that. I mean, they have to cooperate to some extent, all right? How easy is it to get sued these days? Not that hard, okay? So yes, they got the money. No, they don't got the money. Now they're in tax debt. Thanks a lot, mom and dad. So what are we going to do? The answer is we're going to put a wall around the goose. Nobody takes the goose away from the kid. It's a trust. But that's what we're going to do. So nobody is going to take the goose away from the kid. But here's the second problem. And the second problem is, I'm not saying your kid's an idiot, but your kid's an idiot. He's not going to let it go. She's not going to let it go for another 10 years of growth. Before you reach room temperature, what are they going to do? Bingo. Where's my money at? I only get half? I don't care. Bird in the hand is worth two in a bush. I've had this conversation many times, and they all come up with that one. I'm so sick of hearing it. Well, you know, a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. What are you talking about? These aren't in the bush. It's in a cage, a gilded cage, and they're stuffing them with feed. You'll have a whole aviary by the time we're done. Bird in the hand, two in the bush. Give me the money. All right. Now here's the philosophy, political, whatever. I don't care what you want to say. How much money is in IRAs? How much money is in middle-class IRA, 401k, 403b, et cetera, et cetera? How much? The answer is 35 to 40 trillion dollars. It's the last big piñata. Think of it like that. Okay? Middle-class money, and Bill Gates doesn't have an IRA, I promise you. Neither does Warren Buffett. Okay? They don't have IRAs. That's middle-class thing. And it's not a great deal. I mean, all the fees and stuff on top of it, it's not a great deal. But it's the best deal we're ever going to see. So take it, all right? And now 35 to 40 trillion dollars is in there. How is Nancy and Chuck going to get your money? How are they going to do it? Well, they can't come after you. They can't just tax you on it. Because if they did, would you ever put another nickel in? If they say, I'm going to tax your IRA, give me 20% of it. Yeah, give me 10% of it right now. Excess IRA tax. Would you ever put another nickel in? Would anybody? No. So they're not that dumb, okay? They want to smash the piñata. Yes, they do. They do, okay? Now, for you, the IRA is a vault in the lowest sub-basement. Nobody's going to get it. It grows tax-free. It's wonderful, right? When you're gone, it's a piñata, okay? And your kids are going to whack it with the stick. And Nancy and Chuck, you know, the bullies in the neighborhood, they're going to come by and they're going to get 40% of what falls out of the piñata. That's the goal. This is why with the Secure Act, have you heard of the Secure Act? The IRA reform. We did get a couple of good things out of it. But by and large, what it did was it made it more confusing and less profitable to do long-term planning with the IRA. What we could do before, most of our families did this. They provided for a lifetime income stream for their family from the IRA. Now the IRA says 10 years, maximum 10 years. Well, better than nothing, right? But it's so confusing that even more people now are saying bird in the hand, two in the bush. And you don't get the lifetime thing. And so more and more people are just smashing the piñata and there goes 40. That's how they're getting your money. That's how they're getting the IRA money. Are you with me on this? They're making it less attractive for the kids to maintain that. They're making it so confusing, and after you've died, the kids are all kind of discombobulated anyway. All right, what do they say? Don't make any decisions for a year, right? Don't make any big financial decisions. This is one they make in the first 24 hours, okay? What we're saying here is, what if we slowed that process down, okay? What if we said, look, if you take it out over 10 years, and you can wait till the end of 10 years, get this. Anybody here have a Roth IRA? Oh my goodness, Roths are so wonderful, right? The Roth IRA should be the last money you spend, all right? If you got a traditional, you got a Roth, spend the traditional first, because when you leave the Roth to your kids, 10 years later, if they just leave the damn thing alone, 10 years later, the snowball has grown and it's all tax-free. Of course, tax rates are going down though, right? I'm pretty sure of that. Tax rates are going to go down because we have so much extra money floating around. Isn't that right? We expect tax rates to go down. Wouldn't it be sweet to leave your kids, and 10 years after you're gone, a freaking snowball that's about to hit the Alpine Village and wipe it off the face of the earth? Or the equivalent. Are you with me on this? That's what you can do. That's what the golden goose is all about. We call it the goose that lays the golden egg. Because why? Because if you had a goose that laid golden eggs, on Monday you'd be happy, on Tuesday you'd be happy, by Wednesday afternoon you'd be thinking, why does this damn thing only lay one egg a day? And by Friday you're going to kill the goose to get the gold inside, but there is no gold inside because why? It's magic. It's a magical goose. Well, your inherited IRA is a magical goose. What is the magic? The magic of compounding, right? And not paying tax in the meantime. You put those two together. I know you don't like your kids. I know you can't wait to die to get away from them. Which is why you're putting all your, why you go to the casino as soon as you get an RMD and you're drawing down your IRA so you won't benefit your kids because you don't like them. But some people, they kind of like them, sort of. And if you were going to leave them something, maybe it would be a good idea to leave them something that's of real value. Maybe maximizing that value wouldn't be so. And that's the third elephant, what I call waste. The waste that goes on makes you cry. Well, I'm too tough to cry. I'm too masculine and secure in my, I cry all the time. It makes you cry when you see what happens when people get stuff, right? When kids are left inheritances and nobody has given any thought beyond what the guy at the bank told you to put your kids as beneficiary in the IRA. And now you see kids wind up in tax problems, they lose the inheritance, on and on and on. See, what most people do is what I call pillowcase o' cash, pillowcase of cash. The idea is that when you've died, we're going to pile whatever you've got left on the table, okay? Whatever you got left is on the table. We're going to pile it all up, pay the bills, whatever there is. And then, do you like both of your kids? Love them. Ooh, well, there you go. Finally, see, I told you we would get somebody eventually. Oh, you did? Well, that's okay. We can talk later. So we pile the money on the table. We divide it into two stacks because 60-40, right? Because you like this one better. I know you can. Yeah, you can tell us. Yeah. So anyway, we've got two pillowcases o' cash. And now I go looking for him. Now, he didn't tell you that he spends his Friday nights hanging out on South Division. He didn't tell you that, I know, but after you're gone, he can flaunt it. And so I'm looking for him and his brother or sister? Brother, right? And they're both hanging out on South Division. And now I deliver the pillowcases of cash to the kids hanging out on South Division. Now, if you got a pillowcase of cash on South Division at midnight Friday night, what are the chances that even him, tough guy that he is going to make it home tonight? Not good, right? In my world, it's always midnight, right? It's always South Division or West Edge or Muskegon Heights or Combat Zone in Boston or, 8 Mile, wherever, right? It's always a bad neighborhood. It's always midnight because I don't know who's going to get MS next. And I don't know who's going to get early Lewy body dementia or early onset dementia. And I don't know who's going to get divorced or bankrupt. I don't know who's going to open a sports bar in March, God forbid, March of 2020. Like, I don't know who's going to do that. I just know that stuff like that happens. And if I hand your kid a pillowcase of cash and he gets mugged, I can't be surprised by that. There's no surprise about that. Everybody knows it's going to happen. If that happens to you, what's the percentage? 100%. People say, well, it's only 3%. It's only X percent. Where they come up with these numbers, I have no idea. They come up with some, yeah, if it happens to you, it's 100%. Right? It's going to happen to somebody. Somebody's got to win the lottery. Right? Somebody's going to get divorced. Somebody's going to get MS. Somebody, if you really want, we had an intake nurse from Mary Free Bed. Okay. If you want to talk to somebody who doesn't have to be convinced that shit happens, talk to an intake person at Mary Free Bed. People in their mid-40s, prime of life, stroke, aneurysm, car accident, this stuff happens, right? And the question is, when it happens, are you ready for it, or did you just close your eyes tight and whistle past the graveyard, right? Well, we don't close our eyes. We keep them open, and we say, look, elephant in the room. If you're in a room with an elephant, how long can you ignore it? Even if I put a bed sheet over the elephant. If there was an elephant in the back of the room, would you guys have figured it out by now? Why? Well, the smell, the breathing, right? The water, the processed hay. I mean, you'd have figured it out. It's the same way with this stuff, right? They're all trying to hide the elephants. I'm saying, no, you're going to go broke. No, you're not. Oh, yeah, well, you're going to wind up indebted to long-term care. No, you're not. Well, your kids aren't going to get it. Bad things will happen. No, it'll go where you want it to go. And if you want to leave it to the church or the zoo or the church, I don't care. I'm perfectly okay with all of that. I'm just saying, if you are going to leave it to the kids, let's do it in such a way that the kids actually get it. Any problem with that? Any questions about that? Okay. So what are we going to do here with the, once we've got the geese protected from anyone taking them away from your kid. We've done that, but then we're going to protect the goose from your kids. We're going to put bars on the cage, and the kid can't kill the goose. You think that will be popular with your kid? It will not. They will spit on your grave, and then they'll blame me. They'll write up bad reviews. I get the worst reviews I get on, Google and what have you. It's from kids posing as clients who aren't clients. They're the kids. It's the kids. Clients are happy with me. It's the kids who didn't get all the money all at once. Rata-frata, slimy Dave Carrier. He's terrible. Okay, fine, whatever. Put up with it. But you know what happens 2 or 3 years into it? Change of heart. 2 or 3 years into it, when they can't remember what they spent the house proceeds on, and they get another check, things change. People feel differently about it, okay? So the question is, do you have the guts as a parent to say, you can't have your pudding unless you eat your meat. You got to eat the main course before you get dessert. Are you with me on this? It's your money. It's not their money anyway. What do you care what they think? Who's smarter? Who's lived longer? You or them? Well, now's the time. You can curry favor. You say, oh, mom's really. But you don't want to emphasize the life experience too much. You know what I mean? You want to take good relationship. All right. So that's what we're doing. Now you say, well, wait a second. 5 years is an awful long time to wait for anything good to happen. All right. I set this thing up like you're talking about. Now I got to wait for 5 years because nothing good happens for 5 years. Are we all together on that? All right. Would you believe me if I said that good things start happening immediately? What if I proved to you that good things start happening? Would that be pulling a rabbit out of my hat? Sure. Incidentally, do we have items? Okay, good. All right. So 0 to 60, we all agree on that, right? 0 to 60, month 61. I got to make it to month 61. We all agree on that, don't we? All right. Before this to work. And let's say between the house, and this could be married couple, single person, doesn't matter. Okay. Could be house, could be whatever. Let's say we've got 600,000 of assets. And I'm not going to account for IRAs because I want to get into the whole tax aspect of that. Okay. Remember, I've got another thing for the IRA. Don't worry about it right now. But between cashy money and house, I've got 600,000. We all together on that? All happy? Okay. How much of the 600,000 is at risk? You haven't done any planning. How much of the 600,000 is at risk? All of it. Exactly right. It's all at risk. So I've got 600,000 at risk. But now I do the plan, right? Now I get everything funded. I've done my root cellar. I got my assets down there. Everything's looking super good. And on the last that we just had the wrap up meeting, we have a special ceremony and stuff. You get your badge and name tag and secret decoder ring over at the funding. No, you don't really. No, well, you do. You get the secret decoder ring, but not the rest of it. Anyway, so you are all done. And now out into the wide world. And unfortunately, you have a stroke, debilitating stroke, as soon as you finish signing all the documents, everything's done. The feeling of relief is so great, your brain fries. Boy, that's pretty bad, isn't it? Could it get worse than that? Well, it could have happened before you had the thing set up, but now, no, you got the thing set up. And now we're going to have to pay $200 a day for care, which is $6,000 a month. $6,000 a month. We all together on that? Remember, I had everything at risk, but now I got my trust set up, and on the first day it was all set and done. I just got to wait my 60 months, and I have a horrible stroke, terrible tragedy, and now I got to pay $200 a day for care. For how long do I have to pay? 60 months. Are we all together on that? 60 months to get across that finish line. How much is that going to cost me? $360,000. My worst case scenario used to be I had 600,000 at risk. Now my worst case scenario is I've got how much at risk? Right. No, I've saved 240. I've got 360 at risk. I've saved 240,000, right? Because to get me to the finish line, it's going to cost 360. Before it could cost everything, but now it's only going to cost me 360. We all together on that? So the first day you set up the trust, you've sheltered $250,000. Not great, but it's not terrible either. Not terrible. But let's say you say, I think I'm going to wait. I got the stroke, and I could start with the long-term. I'm going to put off my stroke until Valentine's Day. That'd be romantic. So now I only have to pay for 59 months, which means I just sheltered another 6,000. And when Valentine's Day rolls around, you think, I've always liked St. Patrick's Day. St. Patrick's Day, wearing of the green beer and all the rest. I think I'll wait till St. Patrick's Day to have my stroke. And now I only have to pay for 58 months, which means I saved another 6. And come St. Patrick's Day, you realize you're the only one who understands taxes. So you're going to wait till April 15th. You're going to wait till tax day. And then on tax day, it is Mother's Day. And then, of course, Father's Day, I was with my father. And then the 4th of July. Are you with me on this? See, once you get it started, right, you've saved $250,000, 240,000, close enough, right? But then as each month goes by, you're reducing your liability. This is not, I got to wait 5 years for something good to happen. This is good things start happening immediately, and it gets better every month. We all together on that? Some people say, oh, yeah, well, what if it's $10,000 a month? I say, okay, fine. We're sheltering $10,000 a month. Hooray for me. Well, if it's only 3, well, you're only saving $3,000. Got it. Understood. But the point is, right now, you're running a race. You are running a race. Camera lady? You are running a race. I do everything myself around here. You're running a race where the finish line is 60 months out. Okay? 60 months, the finish line. And every month that goes by, finish line goes back a month. And the finish line goes back a month. And the finish line, it's always 60 months, right? But now, once you start the trust, guess what? Every month that goes by, it gets a little closer. And it gets a little closer. And because why? Because every month now, you planted the flag in the sand, you established your finish line 60 months out. Every month that goes by, you get a little bit closer to all safe. Everything now protected in the root cellar trust. And in the meantime, what effect has this had on your lifestyle? Well, it's like Dave Ramsey says, you're going to be eating beans and rice and beans, camping out in a tent, sleeping in your car, because you can't touch any of the assets that you put in the root cellar trust. Remember me saying that? You remember me saying the exact opposite of that? Yeah. Your life doesn't change. It stays the same. All right? You do what you're going to do. You save what you're going to save. It's just that once you have it set up, it doesn't matter. Morning, noon, or night. It's just the time just goes by. And I'll tell you what the biggest surprise for our clients has been is when we pull them back in for their 6-year review, it's like nobody can believe that it's been that long. We had some folks in last week, client number 30, we're over 54,000 now, but client number 30 was in a couple of weeks ago. That was from back in 1990, that's 32 years ago. And guess what? It's still the same trust. We build a lot of people say, 5 years, the law changes, everything changes. Law does change. every month they're messing with us. Okay, so don't get me wrong, the law does change. But if you know that it changes, and if you build a plan that anticipates the changes, and some things we can anticipate with some specificity and some things we can't, right? But surprise, surprise, the trust continues to work. Even when they throw the Secure Act at us, we had enough flexibility in there. There were a couple of trusts that we had to, because people were doing some kind of far out things, but by and large, it still worked even with the reforms of the Secure Act. So that's how we build your trust. With us, let me talk about fees just a little bit. It's always a fixed fee, right? You set an appointment. At the end of that appointment, we're going to quote you a fee. We'll tell you, hey, look, based on our conversation here, based on what you told us, et cetera, it looks like these might be things that would be of value to you. If you think so, oh, and here's what they cost. So you can do a cost benefit, right? It has nothing to do, our fees have nothing to do with net worth, value of the assets, the amount of money in the account. Frankly, we don't care. It really doesn't matter. Because it's not like if somebody has 10,000 in an account, well, then I can get that one wrong, I guess. But if you had 100,000, well, I better get that one right. Seriously? I mean, you know, can I get a deed wrong if the property is a $200,000 property, but I have to get it right if it's $1 million property? Really? Are you with me on this? I mean, it's like we don't get to make mistakes with anybody. So it makes no sense to me that if you had more money, we would charge you more, because that would imply that I'm not taking care of the other folks. And frankly, you know, it's folks with less that we tend to do our best service for, you know. Oh, we got some questions. Oh, yeah, that'd be fine. All right. Unless it was somebody in the back of the room going, you won't find me. Oh. All right. Does anything that has beneficiaries on it need to go in the trust? Absolutely, yes. Totally, 100% yes. Because a beneficiary designation is a pillowcase of cash on steroids. Okay? It's just boom, here's the money. No slowdown, no take a second look at it. No, this is not a good idea. None of that. Boom, they get it immediately. It's what I call blunt force planning. It's not planning at all. I could call it brain dead if I want to insult people, but I won't, because I don't want to insult people by calling it brain dead. And brain dead would be insulting if I said that, you know, it's a brain dead estate plan to put beneficiaries on your accounts just because everybody's doing it. And wouldn't you think if I said it was brain dead that people would be offended by that? Yeah, I don't want to offend anybody by calling it brain dead. That would be offensive. Not me. Wouldn't do that. Should insurance go in the trust? Absolutely, insurance could go in the trust. One of the frustrations that we have where we're dealing with families who we did not do the planning, but we are doing the Medicaid, and you get everything is all set up, and then all of a sudden somebody dies and insurance proceeds pop up and it screws up your whole plan. Terrible. So you put the insurance in the trust, and now in the root cellar trust, now you don't have to worry about that. IRAs and 401ks. Should IRAs and 401ks go in the trust? No, absolutely not. No way, no how, never. No, we don't do that. Why? Because we would trigger the income tax. We would lose the tax benefits of the Roth, and we would trigger the income tax on a traditional. So no, you don't ever want to do that. How about savings and checking accounts? Absolutely. Now your day-to-day living accounts, which you're paying your bills from, buying your groceries, Social Security goes in, pension goes in, right? That's your pantry. That's your pantry. Your longer term assets, your investment type assets, right? Your security type assets, those are in the root cellar. Why are those in the root cellar? Because I don't want to deal with them that much. Now, this is not a legal technical point, okay? Legally, technically, I could do it all out of the root cellar. That's possible to do. It's really a bad idea, because when I submit a Medicaid application, I've got to show the Department of Health and Human Services caseworker what I've been doing for the last 5, 10, 15, however long it's been, right? I got to explain to them. Now, if I'm paying the electrical bills out of the root cellar trust, I can say, well, this was a divestment, and then I cured the divestment. This was the divestment, and I cured it, and then forget about it, okay? I'm never going to get the approval. Now, by the time we run all the white rabbits down the hole and yeah, it could work. It could work. But when you've got a loved one in long-term care, I want that approval quick. I don't want to be frogging around with this thing for months. I want to get it done. I want to get it done now. I need to keep it easy. So I keep all the day-to-day expenses in the pantry, right? And the longer term stuff is down in the root cellar. It's not a legal technical point. You can't look it up and say, it must go there or it can't go there. It's not like that. It's just after 32 years, you get a sense of what's going to work and what's going to work smoothly. With a fixed fee, I'll just tell you, with the fixed fee, right? Our interest is the same as yours, all right? If I'm hourly bill, let's imagine I'm hourly bill, okay? I'm hourly bill. Is chaos my friend? Yeah. Oh, you wouldn't believe what just happened. Oh, this is terrible. Oh, it's horrible. Yeah.
So
Yes.
Jill Ann says, so does the spouse and the trust become the beneficiaries of
What we like to do. Oh, yeah. So the question is, will the spouse become the beneficiary of the IRA? Okay. And the answer is, yeah, kinda. And with the Secure Act, we have more options. So it's not as simple as always yes, never no. Generally speaking, what people prefer is that their spouse be named as the first beneficiary, and then we make the trust the contingent beneficiary. If you want to know the correct legal, technical, I don't care how you feel about it, answer, it should be the trust first, because under the Secure Act, I can do a rollover into the trust. But everybody gets the heebie-jeebies when you do that. They don't like it. They like to have their name on it. So, okay, I'll give up the potential benefits of having the trust first. And then we'll make the spouse, and then the trust, and then the kids, the ultimate beneficiaries. That's how you layer it on the because you can use disclaimers and stuff. There's a whole nother level of planning that goes on when you have the tools. Is anyone here quilt or knit or woodwork or something like that, right? Any hobbies? Anybody fish, right? Well, the more tackle you have, the more forms you have, the more patterns you have, and the more equipment you have, all of a sudden things become possible that weren't possible before. You know what I'm talking about? All of a sudden, hey, I could do that. Once you learn a certain stitch or you learn how to catch a certain fish or whatever, I could do that. The world starts opening up, see? And so when we do this kind of planning, where we're throwing every tool we can think of into the toolbox, right? All kinds of things become possible in terms of protecting assets for your surviving spouse. In terms of, what if the non-nursing home spouse goes into the non-nursing home spouse goes into dies. So I got one in the nursing home and the other one dies. Well, everyone says, well, give it all to my spouse, right? Beneficiary die. Oh, that's so easy. Hey, they're in a nursing home. Why don't I just write a check to the nursing home? Whoopsies, right? Instead, there's a whole layer of planning that we do so that all the money, right, is for the benefit of the spouse in the nursing home while they're still alive, right? But I'm not knocking them off the Medicaid. Not easy to do that. But if you have the tools in place, now you can accomplish it, okay? So when somebody talks about what's the correct beneficiary designations, all that, it's a conversation as opposed to a absolutely this or never that. That's how that goes. What else we got? Does the house have to have the name changed on it? Here's the thing. Like we were talking about before with Red Gretsch. Remember Red Gretsch, right? This is probate-based estate recovery. If there's anything left in probate and you were on Medicaid, the state's coming after it, okay? Well, I'm firmly of the belief that we are enhanced estate recovery. The lien system is in our future. They already tried to pass it in 2012. They came within a couple of votes of passing it. The law has been written. The hearings have been held. It's just sitting on the shelf waiting for majority to pass it, okay? We're that close to going from I don't have to worry about it. I can do a ladybird deed just as long as I avoid probate, to having enhanced the state recovery like 43 states already have. All right, we're that close to it. So that's why I always put the house in the root cellar trust, right? I always do that because why? Because Two reasons, really. Number one, I don't know when they're going to change the law and start coming after the house with the liens. So I got to protect it. That's number one. Number two, what if I sell the house? What if I say, well, a house is protected. I'm not going to put that in the root cellar. And now you sell it and you buy something smaller. And now I got 100,000 that's not protected. Whoops. Or I'm 5 years away from getting it protected because now I got to put the extra money in the, let's just deal with it. You've got a really powerful tool. Let's use it. So that's why I always put the house, even though I think people say it's protected, even if it was, I would still put it in the root cellar because my concern is they are going to change the rules on us. That's one of those things you can see coming at you. They already changed 10 years ago. They tried doing it, right? Well, 9 years ago, they tried doing it. When are they going to get it through? I don't know, but you're going to be okay because we thought about that. We protected you from it. Okay, what else we got? That's what we got. Okay. I was talking about fees. So it doesn't matter to us how much you've got. It's the same fee. What does matter is what is it you want to do, right? And after the meeting that you're going to have one-on-one, because we talked about a lot of stuff here, we get up close and personal in those meetings. And so we'll say, look, we're going to do this, going to do this, going to do this, right? Here's what is available for you. You decide, is there a cost benefit to it? Well, thousands of families have found a cost benefit. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. But we'll get there. But it is a process just to figure out what it is you want and what makes the most sense for you. The one thing I will promise you at these meetings is we will not waste your time. We've got a lot of stuff to get done, so do you. And so we do respect your time. So what questions do you have for me? Yeah, please. With the IRA, we can save half of it. Okay, I can't flip it to a spouse because I don't have a spouse. No, but I can still save. So let's say you've got a $200,000 IRA, okay? We'll protect 100,000 of it, more or less, okay? And we'll set it up. Now, I can't put it in the trust. It's a 70% shot that you'll need 3 years of long-term care on average. That's what the federal government says, okay? So, but I don't know when that's going to happen. And maybe you're one of the 30%. You're lucky you got hit by a bus, yeah, right? So I don't want to cash in your IRA if I don't know I need to do that, right? So, yeah, the Roth is, we can save more with the Roth because I don't have to pay the income tax on it. And ma'am, you had your hand up? Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, I'm not saying it couldn't work on its own terms, right? I mean, I think they're the wrong terms. The question is, what information do I need to bring to the next meeting, right? And the assets are in a trust, in a revocable trust, or you at least have a revocable trust, whether or not there are any assets or not. And you made the comment that I'm saying that the trust is no good. I'm not saying exactly that. Pretty much, yeah, but not exactly. Yes. That's correct. That's correct. And the nice thing about you bringing the trust, if you bring it in the binder, is then I can show you the memo I was talking about. It's always in there, 100% of the time. It's in there. I'll show it to you. And then I can point out there are a number of things that you would think would be in every, for example, healthcare power of attorney. They're not. Things that you would think would be in every financial power of attorney. They're not. Things you would think would be in trusts, and they're not. Just stuff like that. And so having the trust that you already did, not to say shame on you, you should have known better. How would you? But we can point out, look, this is what we were talking about. You know what I mean? And you can, it's there. I mean, it's right in front of you. So we do like to get that. Generally speaking, at this meeting, we don't need, we do a thing. If you decide to work with us, we ask you to complete a thing we call the FIP, the Financial Information Packet. And that's where we're asking for account numbers, because then we got to do that. You know, we got to, every account you've got, every insurance policy, every annuity contract, everything's got to be in the trust, right? But for the first meeting, it's good enough. It's good enough. You can bring that stuff. We're more than welcome to take it. But if you give us sort of a general idea, you know, within 50,000 of how much is here and how much is there, then, you know, then we can talk about something on a factual basis with a, you know, we know what we're talking about. Obviously, a $5 million plan is different than a $50,000 plan. You know, you have different ideas. You have different things you can accomplish. But, you know, there's not that much difference between a $500,000 plan and a $5 million plan. You know, there's not that much difference. Yeah. What about annuities? What about annuities?
I think this was back when she was.
Oh, so if you can have an annuity that's in an IRA, and frequently people say, I have an annuity, and I say, well, you can put that in the trust. And then you see it, and it turns out that it's already in an IRA, and I cannot put an IRA, again, it's an IRA, I can't put that in the trust. But if it's a typical deferred taxation, tax-deferred annuity, we can certainly put that in the trust. And we would. I need to take these assets off the table. These assets all have value. And if you need long-term care, I do not want them to count. Remember, the assets in this thing are always available to you. Okay? It's still your money. It's still taxed to you. Use it. Do whatever you want with it. That is up to you. Yeah.
What is a ladybird? They have late, but they still end up in probate.
Yeah. So a ladybird deed is been around almost since Michigan's been a state. And it became very popular maybe, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago. All of a sudden, people rediscovered it, you know. It's a transfer on death deed is what it is. And what it says is, I'm giving you my property. Here you go. It's all yours. Oh, but by the way, I could change my mind anytime I want. I can put a mortgage on it. I can give it to him. I can do whatever I want with it. Question is, what's a ladybird deed? That's what a ladybird deed is. Okay, I'm giving you it unless I change my mind. Now, when I'm dead, can I still change my mind? No, I can't change my mind anymore. Now it's yours because I couldn't pull it back. Do you see? Yep. Yep. Yeah, well, if you do the ladybird deed, because you haven't done anything. See, with the ladybird deed, nothing happens until you die. Okay? So it's still, so there's two tax consequences to your principal residence. The first is the principal residence exemption, which means you don't have to pay the school operating millage, which is generally about 40% of what you'd otherwise pay in taxes, right? So you don't have to worry about that. We put the thing into the root cellar trust and we retain enough life estate, a very small fraction of a life estate, but enough so you still get your PRE. So we don't lose that. The other thing is when it transfers to your kids, right? When it transfers to your kids, relatives of the first degree, it's not a transfer. And that's true whether the transfer is done directly, you know, for you to your kid with the ladybird deed, or an outright deed, or of course, with an outright deed, you lose the principal residence exemption because now it's the kid's house, not yours, and the kid's not living there. But it doesn't uncap the taxable value. And for people with, does anyone know anyone with a cottage on a lake? Does anyone know anyone with a cottage on a lake? Okay. So cottages on lakes used to be a thing for an awful lot of people. I mean, I have clients who paid $16,000 for their 3 lots and cottages on Lake Michigan. $16,000. Well, that was back in the late 60s. Okay. Those were the days, my friend. Well, they're all worth millions of dollars now. Guess what? The kids can't afford the property taxes. We keep running into the kids can't even forget about buying it. they can't pay the property taxes. And fortunately, they changed things around so that relatives of the first degree, including children, can inherit the property. You can give it to relatives of the first degree, and it doesn't uncap the taxable value. You're still paying the old taxable value. Okay, so you're still paying a very low. So there's two aspects of that. One is, what is the percentage you're paying on an annual basis? The other is, how much value are you paying that percentage on? Does that make sense? And with this, we preserve both. And you can do that when you're leaving assets to kids, when the kids are the beneficiaries, relatives of the first degree. Yeah. Oh, we got 1 minute left. One more minute. Any other questions? Anything I can help with? With us, it's always a free phone call. It's always a free visit. Why is it always a free phone call? Why is it always a free visit? The answer is, if it wasn't free, you wouldn't call us. You wouldn't come by, okay? And then we'd be like everybody else. When was the last time you saw your lawyer? I don't know. What's the date on the document? No, it's 20 years ago. Okay, well, it's 20 years ago. All right, we want you to call us. We want you to talk to us. If we don't keep this stuff up, there's not a lot of work that needs to be done with this once you've got it set up, right? There's not a lot, but there's some, right? And if you don't talk to us, how do you know you're doing it right? Okay, you don't. Well, we want it done correctly. That's my, David is an angel explanation. You want to hear that David is a greedy, self-centered SOB? If you're happy with us, you'll send your friends. You might even recommend your kids. About half of what we do is referral work, okay? And if we nickel and dimed you to death, right? And there are some things you can pay for going forward. New papers we do charge for. So there are things you can pay us for going forward, but by and large, you get a free, every week, you get another newsletter, okay? And so we do events during the year. There's all kinds of stuff going on. And if we haven't heard from you in 2 years, we give you 2 years. If you haven't come in voluntarily, we're gonna send out a search party and drag you kicking and screaming back in here, all right? Fill out the forms again. So it happens all the time. Like, people finally come in, well, I haven't changed anything. I don't need to come in. I say, okay, fine, come in anyway. I'll give you an extra cookie if you do. Now you come in. And could you fill this out for us? Why do I have to fill that out? I told you I haven't changed anything. Say, just fill it out, humor me. And you know what happens 9 times out of 10 when they're filling it out? Guess what happens? Yes. Oh yeah, we did open that account. Did we have that when? Oh, and the 2 new grandkids and and they got divorced and this happened, that happened. And now, right, why do we do that? So after you're dead, so we can commune with your spirit? No. So when the kids come in, right, we know what to tell them. We know what's going on. Are we all together on that? So that's what's going on. Now, how will you remember? That's for bearing with me. That's for being the mouse. You're the mouse too. Bearing with me. Oh, come on, that was yours. Oh, I'm sorry. All right. Where does an 800? Betcha.